points in the 2024 election. A 21-point swing in a district that Republicans considered safe. And that's not it. In doing so, Democrats have broken the GOP's supermajority in the Iowa Senate for the first time in 3 years. Republicans still have a majority, but without the two-thirds majority, Republicans lose their ability to ram through extreme policies without bipartisan votes. Here is Catelin Drey's closing message to Iowa voters.
Across Iowa, rural communities are shrinking. Schools are underfunded. Healthcare is out of reach. The political air is toxic and the water is nearly as bad. I'm done being afraid. I'm Catelin Drey and I'm ready to work for change. Let's send a message to Des Moines. We need thoughtful policies that care more about people than pipelines. I'm Catelin Drey and I'm asking for your vote in the special election on August 26th.
And joining us now is the Democratic Iowa State Senator-elect Catelin Drey. She flipped a seat, breaking the Republican supermajority in the Iowa State Senate. Congratulations and welcome to the show tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Obviously, all the armchair quarterbacking going on, special election, lots of money came in, lower turnout, whatever. As we've learned in this country, elections have consequences.
Absolutely, and I think the consequence here is that voters will have a bigger seat at the table. As you mentioned, that supermajority is no longer, and that means that we will not be, hopefully, subject to as many unwelcome and bad policies in the state of Iowa.
So your one special election has literally changed the trajectory for Iowa for the next few years because of this one change, right? A supermajority, which exists in several states, means they can override a veto. They can do whatever they want. This changes a whole bunch of things. Every Democrat in the state is now sitting here and rewriting their plans for the next year or so.
Yeah, so my term will end at the end of session this year. It is a special election to fill out the term of the previous senator who sadly passed away at the end of June. But I will be running for re-election, and name recognition can go a long way in a re-election campaign. But what really makes a difference is that we laid the groundwork in other races. We've had 3 previous special elections in the state of Iowa. And Senator Mike Zimmer in Clinton County did the same thing. He flipped a plus more. The numbers escape me at the moment, but his margin was even bigger, and he flipped that seat and has been an exceptional representative. We have done the work to reach as many voters as we possibly can. We knocked on over 17,000 doors. We made almost 30,000 phone calls. And that was largely a local effort with my Woodbury County Democratic Party, who I spent a lot of time with last cycle. And we know that groundwork makes a huge difference when we are talking about Democratic policies.
That final pitch that I played a little bit of when you said, we were talking about rural Iowa. These policies in the federal bill that passed recently, there are a whole lot of things that are hurting rural America. There is the USAID cuts, the SNAP cuts, but very basic stuff that's affecting farmers and rural America, including healthcare cuts. Because if you're 75 years old and your local hospital closes because it's defunded, you can't live there.
And I think what's most striking about that is that our rural hospitals and even our, semi-urban hospitals like the one in Sioux City where I live, they rely on competitive Medicaid reimbursement rates. And with cuts to Medicaid, our healthcare system will be devastated. And that affects people who don't utilize Medicaid at all. If those providers are not able to have an equal reimbursement rate or, something that keeps pace with the needs we have as providers, that affects the rest of us.
Your specialist goes away. Your hospital might close. Your community health center might close. You may never have touched Medicaid or have any plan to touch Medicaid in your life, but you can't get the provision of health care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's what's really devastating is people will say, I don't want to pay for someone else's health care. Well, you already are in private insurance. The difference is you are not subjecting yourself to additional premiums that you'll never see the benefit of to benefit a CEO who needs to, buy another mega yacht, or shareholders who are getting payouts. And that's the real difference.
And do you, like we've been watching these town halls across the country with members of Congress, were you getting the sense that voters sort of were prepared to put aside their ideological, where they normally stand on the ideological spectrum, to realize that America's just going in a bad direction and they don't want to be part of this?
I think Iowans are largely frustrated with the direction that things have been going in Des Moines and in Washington, and I am hopeful. I'm not Pollyannish by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm optimistic that we are seeing a shift in the way people think about what their vote means. I spoke to a woman over the weekend who said, I don't think that voting makes a difference, and I'm not interested in turning out. And I said, well, here's why this race is important. It breaks the supermajority and gives us a better seat at the table. And she said, I'll go vote tomorrow. I think that conversation was on Sunday, and she made a plan to vote on Monday. And those types of conversations and having that discourse with your neighbors is really what's going to make the difference as we close in on 2026.
For all of history now, when people ask their little AI app on their phone, does voting make a difference? Your name's going to show up, and they're going to talk about how it made a difference.
If that's the legacy.
That was a 21-point swing for a lot of people who may have thought their vote wasn't going to make a difference, and now we get to talk about it. Thank you for being with us tonight. Again, congratulations. Iowa State Senator-elect Catelin Drey. We'll be right back.